The excavation site on Kepler 442b hummed with activity. Human archaeologist Dr. James Walker brushed away millennia of dust from the metallic surface, revealing symbols that made his breath catch. The writing looked impossibly familiar, almost like ancient Earth hieroglyphs, but different, more advanced. "Professor, you need to see this," called his assistant Maria. From deeper within the ruins, James navigated through the narrow corridors of the underground structure. What Maria had found defied explanation, a massive chamber filled with star maps. But these weren't just any star maps. At the center, clear as day, was Earth's solar system, marked with a symbol that translated to origin. The Galactic Council had called humanity newcomers when Earth made first contact 50 years ago. The established species, the reptilian dragons, the crystalline Volari, and the insectoid Cathari, had treated humans as primitive children playing with technology they barely understood. They'd grudgingly given humanity a minor seat at the council, mostly to keep them contained. Now, James stared at evidence that would shatter that narrative. The chamber's walls depicted humans' unmistakably human forms, teaching other species. Building, creating, leading. "Run the dating scanner again," James whispered. Maria's hands trembled as she operated the device. "Professor, this structure is over 5 million years old. The implications crashed over them like a tsunami. Humanity wasn't new to the galaxy. They were the predecessors, the mythical ancient ones whose technology still baffled current civilizations. The species that had vanished without explanation, leaving behind wonders that no one could fully understand or replicate. James activated his quantum communicator, connecting directly to Earth's Science Council. Priority 1 message: "We found proof. Humanity. We're the ancients." Within hours, the discovery leaked. Not through human channels, but through Cathari spies who had been monitoring human archaeological efforts, considering them quaint attempts at relevance. The spies' report to the Cathari High Command was intercepted by Volari intelligence, who shared it with their Dracon allies. Panic rippled through the Galactic Council chambers. For centuries, these species had built their entire identity around being the inheritors of the ancients' legacy. They'd fought wars over ancient artifacts. Their technology, their space travel, even their weapons all derived from reverse engineering ancient remnants. And now they discovered that the species they dismissed, patronized, and contained was the source of it all. The Draken Emperor's scales shifted to deep purple, a sign of extreme distress. If humans are the ancients, why don't they remember? Why are they so limited? The Volari ambassador's crystalline form resonated with anxiety. Perhaps they chose to forget. Perhaps something made them start over. But if they remember, if they reclaim what they once were, the sentence didn't need finishing. Every species in the council had seen what ancient technology could do. The planet-sized engines that could move entire solar systems. The gates that folded space-time. The weapons that could unmake matter itself. On Earth, the reaction was different. Instead of panic, there was a strange sense of coming home. Dreams that humans had dismissed as fantasy suddenly felt like memories. Children drew pictures of impossible cities they'd never seen. Engineers found themselves understanding ancient artifacts intuitively, as if remembering rather than learning. Dr. Walker stood in the ancient chamber, now fully excavated. The walls came alive with holographic projections as his presence activated dormant systems. The images showed humanity's past, a galactic civilization of unimaginable power and wisdom, but also its fall, not from external force, but from a deliberate choice. They had chosen to reset, to begin again, to forget the burden of being gods among the stars. But the records also showed something else, a trigger, a condition that would begin the awakening. When humanity rediscovered its origins, when they were ready, the sleeping knowledge would return, The last projection showed a human figure, addressing whoever would find this place. We chose to forget, to become mortal again, to rediscover wonder. But we knew that one day our children would need to remember. When you see this, know that the time of sleeping ends. Humanity rises not to conquer, but to shepherd once more. The galaxy will fear this return, but they need not. We were teachers once. We shall be again. As James watched, he felt that a subtle shift in his mind, like doors opening to rooms he'd never known existed. Across Earth, across human colonies, the awakening had begun. The galaxy had indeed panicked too late. Asterisk. Admiral Tom Bradley stood on the bridge of the USS Pioneer, Earth's flagship, as it approached the Galactic Council's emergency session. 3 days had passed since the discovery on Kepler 442b. 3 days that had changed everything. "Sir, the Draken fleet has formed a blockade," reported Lieutenant Lisa Park, her voice steady despite the tension. 300 warships. Tom felt the strange calm that had settled over him since the awakening began. Knowledge whispered at the edges of his consciousness, not fully formed, but present, like muscle memory of skills never learned. "Open channels," he ordered. The view screen filled with the scarred face of Draken Supreme Commander Vex. "Human vessel, you will halt. The Council has voted. Until we understand the nature of your transformation, humanity is under containment." Tom almost smiled. 300 ships. Once, that would have been overwhelming. But now, looking at their formations, their weapons signatures, he saw their weaknesses as clearly as if he designed them himself, which, in a way, humanity had millions of years ago. "Commander Vex," Tom replied calmly, "we're attending the session as requested. We have no hostile intentions. Your intentions are irrelevant. You will submit to escort or be destroyed." Behind Tom, Chief Engineer Robert Jones whispered, "Admiral, the ship's responding to us differently. I'm seeing new systems coming online. Systems that weren't there yesterday." It was happening across the human fleet. Ancient programming, dormant in what humans had thought was junk DNA, was activating. Their technology, crude copies of ancient designs, was remembering its true form. The USS Pioneer's hull began to shimmer, shifting from gray metal to something that seemed to drink in light. On Earth, the transformation was even more pronounced. Dr. Walker stood in the Global Science Center, watching as humans worked with an efficiency that seemed impossible. Not rushed, not frantic, just flowing, as if they'd done this 1,000 times before. "The memory cores from the ancient sites," Maria reported, "they're interfacing with our networks on their own. It's like they were waiting for us." The data flowing across screens told an incredible story. Humanity hadn't just been the ancients. They had been the first. The elder species that had found a sterile galaxy and seeded it with life. They had uplifted countless primitive species, guided them, taught them. The Drakens, Volari, Cathari, all had been humanity's children once, but power had corrupted. Not into tyranny, but into stagnation. Humanity had become so advanced that existence lost meaning. So they had chosen the unthinkable, a complete reset. They had hidden their technology, wiped their memories, and began again as primitives on Earth, with only buried instincts and dreams of the stars to guide them. In the council chambers, panic had turned to desperate action. The Cathari Queen's compound eyes glittered with fear. "We must strike now, while they're still remembering. If we wait, we survive," interrupted the eldest Volari, his crystalline body dim with age. "I remember stories my ancestors told, passed down for generations. The ancients never conquered through force. They simply made resistance, irrelevant." Back on the Pioneer, the confrontation with the Draken fleet escalated. Vex had given the order to fire. 300 ships unleashed their weapons simultaneously: plasma cannons, antimatter torpedoes, graviton beams. Tom didn't give orders. He didn't need to. His crew moved in perfect synchronization, their awakening memories guiding them. Lisa's hands danced over controls she'd never seen before. The pioneer's response was simple, a pulse of energy that expanded outward like a soap bubble. The attacking weapons simply ... stopped, not destroyed, not deflected. They hung in space, frozen in time, as the pulse passed through the Draken fleet. Every ship found itself powerless, systems locked, weapons disabled. Impossible. Vex breathed over the still open channel. No, Tom replied, and for the first time, he truly understood. You're using 7th-generation derivatives of ancient defense screens. We wrote the base code. We know every vulnerability because we put them there, safeguards, in case our children turned the tools we gave them against each other. The human fleet proceeded to the Council station unopposed. As they docked, Tom felt the weight of what was coming. Humanity was remembering not just their technology, but their purpose. They had been guardians once, teachers and protectors. The galaxy's reaction: fear, aggression. Panic showed how far their children had fallen in their absence. The council chambers awaited, filled with representatives of 100 species, all wondering if their gods had returned to judge them. Tom straightened his uniform. Humanity had awakened, but the real work was just beginning. Asterisk. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so silent. Representatives from every major civilization sat frozen as Admiral Tom Bradley walked to the center podium, flanked by Dr. Walker and Ambassador Helen Cross. The humans moved with a grace that seemed both alien and hauntingly familiar to the watching species. High Chancellor Zara of the Volari spoke first, her crystalline form pulsing with nervous energy. You claim to be our creators? Helen stepped forward, her voice carrying a weight that transcended her apparent youth. Not creators, teachers, guardians. We found you when you were young, your species barely discovering fire or forming basic societies. We guided you, helped you reach the stars. The Cathari Queen's mandibles clicked aggressively. Lies. The ancients disappeared 5 million years ago. You humans only achieved spaceflight centuries past. Dr. Walker activated a holographic projector. The chamber filled with images, historical records, pulled from the discovered ruins and humanity's awakening memories. The room watched as the story unfolded, humans teaching Draken's mathematics, showing Volari how to harness stellar energy, guiding Cathari toward their first hive mind connections. We gave each species gifts suited to their nature, Walker explained. The Drakens received strategic thinking and strength. The Volari gained harmony with energy itself. The Cathari achieved perfect unity of purpose. Every advancement you've made carries echoes of these original gifts. Commander Vex stood, his scarred hide rippling with suppressed rage. If this is truth, why abandon us? Why disappear? Tom answered this time, and as he spoke, memories that weren't quite his own flooded through him. Because we became something we never intended. We had such power that your ancestors began worshiping us. You stopped growing, stopped learning, stopped trying. You waited for us to solve every problem, to make every decision. The hologram shifted, showing massive human city ships, beings of incredible power, managing every aspect of galactic civilization, but also showing the stagnation species that had stopped evolving, stopped dreaming, because their gods would provide everything. So we made a choice, Helen continued. We would reset ourselves, become mortal again, forget everything. We destroyed most of our technology, keeping only scattered pieces for you to find and learn from. We became myths, legends, forcing you to stand on your own. A minor species representative, Ambassador Krill of the Mendathi, spoke up with a trembling voice. But you left us. Wars happened. Billions died. The dark age after you vanished lasted millennia. The pain in Tom's expression was genuine. The awakening brought not just knowledge, but responsibility. Every war, every genocide, every moment of suffering that followed humanity's departure, they felt the weight of it. We know, he said quietly. We remember now. Every species that went extinct. Every war fought over our artifacts. We thought you would unite in our absence, become stronger together. Instead, he didn't need to finish. The current state of the galaxy spoke for itself. Hundreds of species in constant conflict. Alliances based on fear rather than cooperation. Technology hoarded rather than shared. The Draken Emperor himself had arrived, his massive form entering the chamber with an escort of guards. So the gods returned to judge their failed creation? No, Helen said firmly. We return to help, but not to rule. The awakening isn't just restoring our memories. It's showing us what we did wrong. We made you dependent. This time, we teach but don't control. We guide but don't command. Behind her, the wall screens activated, showing scenes from across human space. Cities transforming as ancient technologies reactivated, but also humans struggling with their new knowledge, debating, arguing, trying to decide what to do with their restored heritage. We're not the same as we were, Walker added. 5 million years of mortal life, of struggling, of being the newcomers you dismissed. It changed us. We understand weakness now, failure, the need to earn rather than simply possess strength. The Volari Chancellor resonated thoughtfully. You could destroy us all. Your technology could reshape reality itself, Tom confirmed. But that's not why we're here. The awakening showed us something else, a threat coming from beyond our galaxy, something that even the original ancients feared. We didn't just reset ourselves for your benefit. We did it to prepare. The chamber erupted in concerned voices. Tom raised his hand, and silence fell not from power, but from the grave certainty in his expression. In approximately 50 Earth years, they'll arrive. The Devourers' beings from a universe where physical laws work differently. We fought them once before and barely survived. We reset ourselves to become something new, something unpredictable, something that could face them differently. And now, Helen said, looking at each species representative, we need to prepare together, not as gods and worshippers, not as ancients and descendants, but as equals facing a common threat. The galaxy had panicked about humanity's return. Now they realized their panic had been misplaced. The real test was what came next. 6 months after the awakening. Earth had become the galaxy's strangest. Paradox, a world of impossible advancement, occupied by beings deliberately restraining their own power. Captain Mike Anderson stood in the newly constructed Harmony Station, watching human and alien engineers work side by side. The massive structure orbited Earth's moon, serving as both embassy and training ground. Here, humanity would teach what they were remembering, but carefully, gradually. The Cathari are struggling with the quantum field manipulators, reported Dr. Emma White, the station's chief science coordinator. Their minds process information differently than ours. What seems intuitive to us now is almost incomprehensible to them. Mike nodded. The awakening had revealed an uncomfortable truth: human consciousness was fundamentally different from other species. Not superior, but designed as a template that could understand and work with all forms of thought. They were the universal translators of concepts, able to bridge any gap in understanding. In the training hall, a young Draken warrior named Rex faced off against human instructor David Park, not in combat, but in a more complex challenge: simultaneous strategic planning across 17 different dimensional scenarios. Ancient warfare wasn't about strength or weapons, but about thinking in ways that reality barely permitted. Focus on the pattern, not the individual moves, David guided patiently. Your ancestors could do this. The ability is still there, just dormant. Rex's scales shifted through frustrated colors before suddenly flashing silver understanding. On the holographic display, his scenarios began synchronizing, creating a cascade effect that resolved all 17 simultaneously. I see it, Rex exclaimed. It's not about winning each scenario. It's about creating resonance between them. Across the station, similar breakthroughs happened daily. The Volare learned to hear the songs hidden in quantum foam. The Cathari discovered how to fragment their consciousness across time without losing cohesion. Each species was rediscovering abilities their ancestors had possessed when humanity first uplifted them. But not everyone celebrated these developments. In the shadowed corners of the galaxy, the consortium, a secret alliance of species that profited from the current chaos, watched with growing alarm. Senator Crow of the Mindari had called an emergency meeting. The humans will destroy everything we've built, he hissed to his co-conspirators. Our trade monopolies, our weapon supplies, our control over lesser species, all of it becomes worthless if everyone has access to ancient knowledge. The others agreed. For centuries, they had hoarded ancient artifacts, using their slight technological advantages to dominate entire sectors. Now, humans were freely teaching secrets that would make their advantages meaningless. We must act, declared Admiral Voss of the Tarkanian fleet. A preemptive strike while they're still adjusting to their memories. Back on Earth, the Global Council convened in the restored city of New Atlantis, a fusion of modern architecture and remembered ancient design. President John Miller addressed the assembled leaders, both human and alien. The Devourers aren't just a military threat, he explained, displaying data that hurt to perceive directly. They exist partially outside our dimensional framework. Conventional weapons, even ancient ones, can only slow them. To stop them, we need something new. Ambassador Helen Cross took over. Our reset wasn't just about forgetting. It was about becoming capable of thinking in ways the old ancients couldn't. Mortal fear, desperate innovation, the chaos of unguided development, these gave us perspectives we never had before. Dr. Walker presented his team's findings. Each species that emerged during our absence developed unique approaches to reality. The Bendathese probability manipulation, the Quell's time perception abilities, even the primitive Yandari's instinctive grasp of null space. These are innovations we never thought of. Combined with restored ancient knowledge, we become something unprecedented, finished Tom Bradley, now Fleet Admiral of the United Defense Force. Not just ancients reborn, but something new. Something the Devourers won't expect. The meeting was interrupted by urgent alarms. The consortium's fleet 5,000 ships from 17 species had launched their attack. But they had made a fatal miscalculation. They assumed humans would respond with ancient technology, with overwhelming force that would justify their aggression to other species. Instead, humanity did something unexpected. They invited them in. Every attacking ship received the same message. We know you're afraid. Come to Earth. See what we're really doing. Understand the threat that's coming. Choose. It was Admiral Voss who first accepted, landing his flagship on Earth under guarantee of safety. When he emerged 3 hours later, his entire demeanor had changed. Call off the attack, he commanded his fleet. We've been fools. They showed me. The Devours. They're already sending scouts. We have less time than we thought. The panic phase was ending. The preparation had truly begun. And in the coming trials, humanity would need every ally, every innovation, every spark of creativity that mortality had given them. Asterisk, the day the Devourer scout arrived, Reality itself seemed to hold its breath. Admiral Tom Bradley stood on the bridge of the Synthesis, humanity's first ship to fully integrate ancient knowledge with modern innovation. Around Earth, the United Fleet held position. 10,000 ships from every species in the galaxy. All trained, all prepared, all terrified. "Contact in 30 seconds, Lieutenant Lisa Park announced, her voice steady despite the incomprehensible readings on her screens. A scout emerged from a fold in space. That shouldn't exist, a wound in reality that leaked colors without names. The entity defied perception, constantly shifting between states of matter, energy, and something else entirely. "All units, hold position," Tom commanded across the fleet. "Remember your training. Think sideways, not forward." The Devourer scout paused, as if surprised to find resistance. In the last cycle, millions of years ago, it had taken the combined might of the entire ancient fleet just to destroy one scout. Now, something was different. Captain Mike Anderson, commanding the Harmony Station, initiated humanity's grand strategy. Begin Protocol Unity. Across the fleet, something unprecedented happened. Human consciousness, awakened to its ancient potential, but tempered by mortality, began linking with allied species. Not dominating, not controlling, but harmonizing. The Ketheri's hive mind efficiency, the Valari's energy manipulation, the Draken's strategic processing, all connected through humanity's unique ability to bridge different forms of thought. The Devourer scout attacked, launching an assault that existed in 17 dimensions simultaneously. Reality warped, ships that were there weren't. Time moved backwards in pockets while accelerating in others. But the United Fleet responded as one organism with 1 billion perspectives. Rex, the young Draken warrior, found his mind linked with David Park and a dozen others. Together, they perceived patterns in chaos that no single consciousness could grasp. There, dimensions 7 through 12, it's vulnerable when it shifts. The Volari, their crystalline forms resonating with human quantum manipulators, created harmonics that shouldn't exist, sounds that reality itself couldn't produce, but somehow did. The Devourer scout recoiled, its form destabilizing. On Earth, Dr. Walker and his team enacted their part. Ancient sites across the planet activated simultaneously, not as weapons, but as anchors. They stabilized local reality, preventing the Devourer from unmaking the fundamental laws of physics. "It's working," Maria shouted, watching as their readings showed the entity's confusion. It expected the old ancient response, pure force and rigid order. It doesn't understand what we've become. The battle raged for hours that felt like seconds and millennia simultaneously. The United Fleet lost ships, hundreds of them, but for every loss, the survivors adapted, learned, evolved their tactics in real time. Then Ambassador Helen Cross did something no one expected. She opened a communication channel to the Devourer. "We know what you are," she said, her words carrying through dimensions that didn't have sound. "You're from a universe where entropy won, where everything reached maximum chaos. You devour order because you've forgotten what it means to create." The scout paused its attack, confused by being addressed directly. Tom seized the moment. Execute phase paradox. The Synthesis and its sister ships engaged their hybrid systems' ancient technology powered by mortal innovation. They didn't attack the Devourer. Instead, they showed it something impossible. They created dot in the middle of battle. They generated new matter from nothing, sparked stars from void, bent reality not to destroy but to build. It was everything the ancients could do, but with the desperate creativity that only mortals possessed. The Devourer scout shuddered, its form flickering between states faster and faster. Then, impossibly, it spoke not in words, but in concepts that burned themselves into every mind present. "You changed. You are not what was. You are not what will be. You are becoming. And then it fled, tearing back through its wound in reality, leaving behind only the echo of something that might have been fear, or perhaps hope. The fleet held position for long minutes, scarcely believing they'd survived. Then the cheers began. Human, Draken, Volari, Cathari, and 100 other species united in victory. But Tom knew this was only the beginning. On his screen, long-range sensors showed what was coming, not one scout, but thousands. The real Devourer fleet, drawn by their scouts' report of something unprecedented. President Miller's voice echoed across all channels. We have 1 year, maybe less, but we've proven it can be done. We can face them not as ancients, not as mortals, but as something new, something they've never encountered. Dr. Walker looked at the data from the battle, seeing patterns that thrilled and terrified him. We're not just fighting them. I think we're teaching them, showing them that existence doesn't have to end in entropy. Helen smiled, a mixture of ancient wisdom and human hope. Then we'll do what humans have always done, what we forgot as ancients but remembered as mortals. We'll make the impossible possible. The galaxy had panicked when humanity awakened. Now, united, they prepared to become something greater than ancients or descendants. They prepared to become truly alive. As Earth's sun set over New Atlantis, children both human and alien played together in its streets, their laughter echoing through dimensions. They were the first generation to grow up in this new reality, where gods walked as mortals and mortals remembered they were gods. The Devourers were coming. But for the first time in cosmic history, they would face something unprecedented. A galaxy that had learned to transform fear into strength, division into unity, and mortality into transcendence. Humanity had returned, not as conquerors, but as catalysts. And the universe would never be the same.